Hi, I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting all over the world through the lens of the principles self-government. And in this video, we're talking about permissive parenting. What are the pros and the cons? In this video, we're going to be talking about what permissive parenting is and the effects of that type of parenting. There are reasons that people keep choosing it, but obviously there's also the dangers. We're going to be discussing all of those things coming up next. So what is permissive parenting? Permissive parenting is a type of parenting where you pretty much just permit anything. The child is technically parenting themselves. So they get to decide what they want to do based on what they like, what they prefer. You treat them in a very affable, kind way. You don't put a ton of expectations on them. You might tell them they need to clean a room or do a chore or something like that, but you're also not going to get too worried about it if they don't. You might nag them to make it happen, but when it doesn't happen, the permissive parent usually just gives up and says, oh well, it's not worth a fight. So permissive parents definitely don't want to fight their children. That's one thing. They're hoping for peace. They're hoping for friendship with their children. They're hoping to have a type of harmony in their home that they know does not come if a parent is doing authoritative parenting or that bully, fear-based, militant style of parenting. Now, just so you know, I have an entire video on this channel, actually probably multiple videos at this point. There's so many videos on this channel about permissive parenting. So I'm not going to go into all of the details about permissive parenting. In this video, I want to spend the time just focusing on what the pros and cons are of this particular style of parenting. Who wouldn't want to be their child's friend, right? That's what I think most parents are hoping for. They hit adulthood, they start having children, they think of the relationship that they have with their parents, which was either good, like awesome, or it really wasn't that great. And they start thinking, if it wasn't great, I want something different. Or if it was good, and right now as adults, we're such good friends, I want to have that relationship with my children too. Here's the problem. Permissive parenting actually turns the parental authority upside down. So it actually puts the parent in a submissive role to what the child wants. The parent ends up worrying a lot about what the child wants, how the child feels, and lets the child dictate most of the things for the child's life. So when this happens, the parent ends up not becoming the parent anymore. So one pro might be that the child is making a lot of decisions, or supposed to be making a lot of decisions. That is the assumption. But here's the con, that even though the child is supposed to be making a lot of the decisions and self-directing and leading themselves, lots of those children don't. And the parent loses their ability to correct the problem when things go bad because they have destroyed their own parental authority in the eyes of the child by ruining the role. So I actually wrote a book years ago called Roles: The Secret to Family, Business, and Social Success. And this is because in our society, we are actually struggling because we don't understand family roles. And I'm not talking about who makes dinner, takes out the trash, or those types of things. Those are responsibilities. I'm talking about what it really means to be the mother, the heart and hearthstone of the family. What it really means to be the father. What does it mean to protect or provide for your children? What do those things mean? And what does it mean to be 15-year-old son or 13-year-old daughter? Those are roles that you have in your family, and those things need to be considered. Many parents who take up permissive parenting, or what I like to call modern progressive parenting, are the types of parents who end up making it so that not only do the children not fully understand who the parent is, but they sometimes, because the parental role is not intact, don't understand their own role as child in the family either. So we're going to talk more about pros and cons of permissive parenting, but first, do you see that subscribe button? Click that button now, and don't forget the notification bell, because when you click that, then you'll be notified when the new content comes out. So let's talk more about the pros of permissive parenting and some of the cons that we might not be considering when we're thinking about just wanting to be our child's friend. So one of the pros is definitely that the parent kind of takes it easy, right? They might have their stress eliminated for a while because they feel like I don't have to take care of everything. The child can decide for themselves if they want to watch that movie or go and do that activity, or when they'll clean their room or not clean their room, if they have clean clothes or not have clean clothes, or if they take a shower or don't take a shower. They can decide for themselves, and if they're going to be dirty and stinky, then fine. That's their choice. So they can take this kind of hands off, like I'm going to do whatever I want to do. So that's definitely one of the pros. I think a lot of parents look at that. They think my life is so busy. I have so many things to do. I don't want to control what somebody else is doing. And so I'm going to take this step back and just worry about me and make sure that my needs are met. So one pro might be that a parent's needs could be met. Another pro could be that a parent might experience less stress, at least initially, when they're adopting this idea of the permissive parenting. They might look at their child more favorably, maybe even with a more optimistic lens, like, oh, they'll turn out, it'll be okay, it's just a phase. Those types of things are all things that permissive parents think to themselves. So are there any pros for the child? Well, the child might think so, but we could definitely make a case where these pros are also cons. So the child may think that it's definitely a benefit of the permissive parenting style that they get to do whatever they want to do. And if they don't want to do something, they don't have to either. They are in complete control of themselves. A rebel child or a child with a rebel tendency is really going to love this. But I have to say, it's not going to be to their best interest in the end. Because if no one's there to push them forward when they're at a completely selfish stage in life, are they really going to learn the lessons that they need or conquer the negative aspects of themselves that they need to conquer for optimum happiness? Well, we don't fully know. It's definitely a gamble. But one thing that I have found is that many children are looking for a parent to tell them when to stop. And one of the cons of modern progressive parenting, or that permissive parenting style, is that the parents don't step in soon enough to tell the child, stop. This is self-destructive behavior. They don't talk enough about behaviors and stuff to the children. So the children are bad at self-assessing themselves or the behaviors in some of their peers, which means that they can make poor choices when it comes to establishing friendships outside of the family. Also, another con to permissive parenting is that children can become very entitled. So when a child gets to do whatever they want, then they don't think that anyone should ever have to tell them to do anything that they don't want to do either. This can create a big problem for them in the future. They can have a hard time being part of teams or groups, working with other people, because they might think everything has to go their way. They may think that their emotions or their feelings are what should be followed above everything else. So they might become a little bit reticent to listening to the truth. They might not want to hear any learning or what anyone else has to say because they might think that they know everything already. So the parent and the child in the permissive parenting style become very entitled in their behaviors, and the con for that is that they can become very detached. It's ironic because the pro is that we'll be more attached, that hopefully we'll become friends. But in the end, oftentimes there is a detachment that happens because there aren't as many things that are discussed. And the child is used to going it alone because the parent's not discussing, so the child then feels the pressure of going it alone. This is probably one of the biggest cons. I mean, I could go on about cons for permissive parenting for a long time, but one of the biggest ones is the overwhelm that the child experiences. With no one there to tell them, don't do that, you need to correct that, let's put it straight, and to let them know that it's okay to have a problem. If they don't have that, then they end up thinking they have to do everything perfectly. They might even not want to take actions because they're not sure they can do something perfectly. If the parent has raised a child with the idea that whatever you choose is good, it's the right thing, then the child doesn't know what real right and wrong are. It's so confusing. And when they get to adulthood and they think, okay, I want to do this right, and they don't exactly know what right is, except for to just be selfish, but they recognize that doesn't usually fly with all people. Mature people have a kind of code of ethics and conduct, and what do I do with that? Then they become overwhelmed, sometimes even shoot themselves down, tear themselves down, and tell themselves they're not a good adult, they're not a good person. The emotional drain that can happen to a child who has not been properly parented is a real thing. So when we're talking about cons, we have to keep in mind the amount of anxiety, stress, depression, loneliness that is associated with detachment from the parents is actually a huge con. This can lay the foundation for the child to have broken or not healthy relationships in the future, for selfishness, for them not knowing how to solve problems. There are many reasons why we want to steer clear of permissive parenting. So what's the solution? The solution is to teach your children how to govern themselves. This helps a parent be able to take some of the steps back. They don't have to micromanage everything. They don't have to be aggressive. They can develop a good bond and a good attachment with the children, but they can do it through training, teaching, and good skill development. This means that all of the problems actually can be solved. Now, there is a con to the type of parenting that I teach, and that is that if you're a lazy person, it's not going to be your favorite. Because when you do all of the teaching ahead of time and you consistently correct your child, that's not a lazy strategy to parenting. You have to put forth quite a bit of effort. But there is something I can tell you, and that is that when you put in that work at the front, that loaded front end, later all of the parenting becomes easier. The relationships are more connected and united, which is really what it's all about. The book that I am most known for is this book, Parenting a House United. It goes through in detail how to set up an environment where parents and children will both learn self-government. It is not easy because you have to conquer yourself to learn self-government, but it is pretty simple. I highly recommend this book and some of my other courses. If you want a sneak peek to some of the principles that are contained in this book, then I highly recommend watching my next video, which is the not so known secret for parenting success. I'll see you there.